Shalom to the elect of Israel. Got to give our praises to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well, and a sincere salutation to all the occupants pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, waking up the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Yahawah who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah, coming at you with another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification. And the title of this lesson, the Edomites became the white race in 1681. Now this is the guy Philippe Matthews show, and he's talking to this Edomite chick who wrote a book, and the title of the book is Birth of a White Nation, the Invention of White People. So I'm going to play the beginning of this clip, then I'm going to get another clip that she went into about when the Edomites became, actually in this lesson right here, she tell you that the Edomites became the so-called white people in 1681. So Lord's willing, this be edifying. Hey, this is Esau Edom revealing the truth, man. Okay, Psalm 64:8. They shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, live on the Philippe Matthews Show. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are around the world. This is a huge, momentous, monumental show. I am so excited to have Dr. Jacqueline Badalore with me. She is an author. She is the author of Birth of a White Nation, The Invention of White People and Its Relevance Today. There's her book right there. It's a fascinating book on race in America that begins with an exploration of the moment in time when white people as a separate and distinct group of humanity were invented through legislation and enactment of laws. Now, Dr. Badalore is an anti-racist writer, attorney, and professor of sociology, anthropology, and criminal justice at St. Xavier University in Chicago. How are you, my dear? Thank you so much for being with me.
I'm great, and I'm really pleased to be with you, Philippe.
Wow. Well, I read your book. I could not put the book down. As I told you in the green room, I ended up buying the Kindle because I had so many highlights. I said, there's no way I'm going to transcribe all these highlights to paper. I just do it on the Kindle. And it is absolutely amazing. Let's start with this. What made you decide to write a book on this topic and this subject? Before we get into your background and all of that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, look, when I was in graduate school at Northwestern, I was researching legal prohibitions on marriage, and I was in the law library going back historically to prohibition after prohibition, and then I found myself looking at laws in the 1600s, and something wasn't right. I wasn't conscious about exactly what that was, but that night after I went home and I went to bed and something was bothering me about the what I had read in my research, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And then at some crazy hour in the morning, as such things tend to go, I woke up and I realized, wait a minute, white people weren't there. Like that label that I have grown up with that was attached to my birth certificate, so certainly for my entire lifetime was a category I just took for granted. And it did not exist in these early laws of the 1600s. So I was surprised to have discovered myself that white people were probably an invention for a particular political purpose. And so because I found it so fascinating and so important for my own personal understanding of this construct we call race, I really knew that it was important to share, and I thought other people would also find it really important and valuable.
Hey, man, she stumbled across this law that they created themselves to be white in 1681, looking up some other laws, man. Okay, I had a Edomite where I work at asked me, where do white people come from? And I had to break it down to her, man. Okay? Hey, from one mountain to another. From Mount Seir to Mount Petra, okay, to becoming, went from Mount Seir, from being Edomites, to Petra, to being Caucasians, to being white, so-called white people, man. Okay? Now I'm going to go back to another lesson, another video that I was watching. And these come from the Elder Malcolm, man.
The law.
So I'm going to go back.
It's punished. And here's what happens. She
go back to 10 minutes in this video.
For the duration of her husband's life.
I'm going to start at 10 minutes of this video to get to the point.
For every woman. So an incredible gender imbalance. And here's what else we know. We know that it was not uncommon for a British woman to choose to marry even an enslaved man of African descent over one of these British or other European men. So the ruling elite responded, and so they passed a law. I believe it is the first anti-miscegenation law, but here's the caveat. White people didn't exist yet. So in 1664, the language of the law is British and other freeborn women who enter into a marriage with enslaved Negro man is the language of the law, is punished. And here's what happens. She is enslaved for the duration of her husband's life. Any children that they have are enslaved into their 20s. And they say, the lawmakers say in the dicta of the law, that the purpose for this law is to discourage these, quote, shameful matches. But that experience of those matches as shameful, there is not a shred of evidence of that interpretation or that experience of the marriages among the masses.
What I'm hearing is, it's fascinating. I'm hearing that there is a white supremacy, if not the term, a racist slant or attitude that was either beginning to develop or had developed, as well as an innate jealousy of not being able to have access to the women of the land. And you're supposed to be the ruling class, the 1%. And so, and we're dealing with men now. We're talking about white men that, thin-skinned, insecure, unfortunately rich, have power of the law, and want to insulate and isolate themselves from any level of rebellion, and to not have any, I guess, shame or someone of a lower class be able to compete with them.
Yes. Well, here, there's actually verbatim language in, again, the dictum of the law that reveals that they view, I think we have to be careful about some of the language we use. It certainly lays the roots of what will become viewed as race later on, truthfully, in the 20th century. But at this time, what we know for sure is that the British ruling elite viewed the British as deserving, in fact, I'm quoting from the law, deserving of rights and privileges from which others can be denied. So that idea of the British that they had of themselves easily accommodated viewing this new invented group of humanity called white people, which we haven't explained yet, but it went easily into that used for that group to explain their special status relative to others. So in this law of 1664, they also said that the purpose of this law was to discourage those marriages, but that's not what happened at all, because landholders get richer if the marriages occur. They were encouraging the marriages, and that's exactly what happened. So it's not until 1681 that the Maryland lawmakers amend the law of 1664, and here, this law of 1681 represents the first use in law of the label white to reference a group of humanity. And what they did was they made it punishable for British and other white women to marry enslaved Negro men. And this one worked because they punished any landholder who was shown to have encouraged the marriage, and the person who performed the marriage, whether civil or religious actor, also received significant punishment. So
now let's run that back again.
Represents the first use in law of the label white to reference a group of humanity. And what they did was
one more time.
They made it
one more time
special status relative to others.
One more time.
So in this law of 1664, they also said that the purpose of this law was to discourage those marriages, but that's not what happened at all.
This is for edification, okay? For you Akim out there, man. For you so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians, man. Okay? This is edification, man.
Because landholders get richer if the marriages occur. They were encouraging the marriages. And that's exactly what happened. So it's not until 1681 that the Maryland lawmakers amend the law of 1664. And here, this law of 1681 represents the first use in law of the label white to reference a group of humanity.
Okay.
And what?
Hey, listen, man. They went from being Hebrew Edomites to Caucasians to so-called white people, man. Okay? When you look up the word white in the dictionary, it tell you white means pure, holy, righteous. But when you look up black, it means wicked, dark, evil. So these Edomites play on words, man. Now I'm going to go to the video that the Elder Malcolm did from GMS Chicago, because he was the one that brought out these videos about how Esau Edom started this whole thing about being white in 1681. So I'm going to play this.
I was in the law library going back historically to...
I'm going to start from the beginning.
Wherever you are around the world, this is a huge, momentous, monumental show. I am so excited to have Dr. Jacqueline Battlelore with me. She is an author. She is the author of Birth of a White Nation, The Invention of White People and Its Relevance Today. There's a book right there. It's a fascinating book on race in America that begins with an exploration of the moment in time when white people as a separate and distinct group of humanity were invented through legislation and enactment of laws. Now, Dr. Battlelore is an anti-racist writer, attorney, and professor of sociology, anthropology, and criminal justice at St. Xavier University in Chicago. How are you, my dear? Thank you so much for being with me.
So, man, these Edomites are finished, man. Okay? Their history is out, man. Just like 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3 tell you, man. Okay? They will be revealed, man. Thus saith the Lord. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. And it reads, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except they come and falling away first. Meaning we had to forget who we were. Okay, we was going to lose our heritage and go into slavery. And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. These Edomites has been revealed, the so-called white man. Okay, the red Hebrew Edomite. This is verse 8. And then shall that wicked man be revealed, whom the Lord Yahawashi shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, meaning by his prophets, man. Okay? Because the prophets of the Lord is bringing out the truth on Esau Edom, the so-called white man, and everything that he stand for, and everything that he hid behind. Okay? Because they was the Greeks, they was the Romans, they everybody, man. Okay? They hide behind everybody. Esau Edom want to take two Canaanite women, two Canaanite wives, to try to get some of his pigment back. But guess what? You are the son of perdition, man, the wicked. The Lord said you will be revealed, man. And now we know who you are. You are Esau, Edom, that red Hebrew Edomite. This is Genesis 26 and verse 26 and start at 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So you are the red Hebrew Edomites. Now when you go to Genesis 36 and 1, now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. It said Esau took him wives, or the daughters of Canaan. Adar, it say Adar, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and it say Aholabamath, the daughter of Anan, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite. So Esau took him 2 wives of Canaan and trying to get that pigment back, man. Okay? Hey, man, you Edomites, you done been to Greece, the Romans, so-called white. Oh, you're the Europeans. Hey, man, what you is Edomites, man. That's who you is. You have been revealed, man. Matthew chapter 10 and verse 26. It say, fear them not, therefore, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known. What I tell them, it say, what I tell you in darkness, that ye, it say, that speak you in light, and what ye hear in the ear, that preach ye upon the housetop. So we out there in the highways and byways, letting you so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians know that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is an Edomite. Okay? They the red Hebrew Edomites, man. Thus saith the scriptures, man. Thus saith Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. You can't hide no more, man. And when you watch this chick, her name is Jane Elliott. Hey, she really go in, man. Hey, Jane Elliott really go in on how these Edomites, which are them, they got to pay for what they did to our people, man. Let me see. Let me go to this one. Let me show you what Jane Elliott says on Oprah, man. Real quick.
I'm so excited about my next guest. She says, you know, all white people are raised with some racist beliefs, even though they may not want to admit it. That's what she says. Jane Elliott says it's possible, though, to recondition racist beliefs. Jane is a former teacher and nationally recognized expert on race relations. And I don't know, but many years ago, when we were still a local talk show here in Chicago, Jane was on the show, and we did, those of you in Chicago might know this, those of you watching Chicago, we did an experiment with Jane, that she's done this for many, many years. She's done it for corporations and universities across the country. It's the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experience, or blue-eyed, green-eyed experiment, where you have the, explain the experiment, Jane, please.
You separate groups according to eye color, and you place those who have the wrong color eyes in the position in which we place minority group members and women in this society, and gays, and people with disabilities. And most of the people that I work with are white, so-called adult males. And those blue-eyed white males, when they are placed in a situation in which they are treated the way women and people of color are treated in this country, react exactly the way women and people of color react in this country.
They get angry.
Angry. I have been threatened with death numerous times. I've been hit by a white male during this exercise. I've had a knife pulled on me. And these are all white males who say they wouldn't have a problem if it happened to them. And they can't understand Los Angeles because they don't know why those people are so angry. Last winter, we were invited to a card party in the town in which I live. And in 1968, I did this exercise in a very informal way with a group of Rotarians in that same town. I was sitting at a card table, and an older man came up to me, and they started introducing to me. And I said, I've known him for years. And he said, I remember you. I've never forgotten you, and I've never forgiven you either. I said, what'd I do? He said, I have blue eyes. I said, oh, you're a Rotarian, aren't you? He said, yes, and I've never forgiven you. The man is over 75 years old. He went through that experience for 15 minutes at a Rotary Club luncheon. And he has never forgotten it in 24 years. He is still angry. You tell me about anger. That's 15 minutes and he's still angry.
And what happens in the experiment?
Well, I would you too. That you have those green eyes. That's the problem you're having, the trouble you're having with your daughter. Because you have those green eyes and you aren't as smart as brown-eyed people. Now, watch this boy's reaction. He goes, excuse me, do you think he's a little angry? You see, white folks are really super sensitive.
What'd you say, Ron? What'd you say?
I said, where's your proof that brown-eyed people are smarter than blue-eyed people?
I tell you, brown-eyed people. You just listen. Now, this is going to be an effort for you. This is going to be an effort for you because you aren't accustomed to listening. White males are accustomed to telling things. They're accustomed to listening. Now, brown-eyed.
That's facts. That's facts.
Brown-eyed people are responsible for the fact that you have electricity. Many of the components for generating and transmitting electricity were invented by brown-eyed people. Brown-eyed people gave us our alphabet. Brown-eyed people gave us our numeration system. Brown-eyed people gave us the paper on which we write these anonymous letters to me that tell me that brown-eyed people.
She's talking about Jake now. This all come from Jake.
People do not pray for me, particularly you. Don't you pray for me. See, I don't have to worry about that. All of a sudden, you ain't going to pray for me. Now, brown-eyed people are the ones who originated or who founded every major religion on this earth. No white people have ever founded a major religion.
That's facts, man. Okay? Jake discovered everything. You got Wicked Jake discovered all these different religions, but that's all Jake, man. And this Edomite right here, Jane Elliott, going letting you know that we discovered everything on the planet, man. Starting with Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi.
We need to realize the contributions that have been made to society, to civilization, by brown-eyed people, by people of color. I'm talking about people of color here, folks. And most of us are not aware of those things because we live in a racist society and because we are educated by a racist school system that only teaches us about white contributions. And
white supremacy.
And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. If we would start telling the truth in schools, we would not have racism. We could cure racism in this country. I heard somebody in the green room say that racism is inbred. No, it is not. Racism is not part of the human condition. Racism is a learned response. You have to be taught to be a racist. You are not born racist. You are born into a racist society. And like anything else, if you can learn it, you can unlearn it. But people like this choose not to unlearn it because they're afraid they will lose power if they share it with other people. We are afraid of sharing power. That's what it's all about. That's the reason men won't share power with women because they are afraid they will lose power. People, if we would share power, we would empower many people so that we would all be more powerful.
Well, this is the point. Ron was saying he doesn't know whether that's prejudice or not because he doesn't want to.
I don't know if it is. I mean, is that prejudice? Is that racism?
Of course it is. Of course it's racism.
And your point.
In the point of view of most people who understand anything about racism, if you were born, raised, and educated in the United States of America, if you weren't a racist, you'd be a miracle. You don't look like a miracle to me.
Other countries don't have racism.
Other countries do have racism. Absolutely, other countries have racism.
This America, that we're born in a racist society. That's fine and dandy, but what I'm getting from you is that we're the only ones that are racist.
Did I say that?
But that's the impression I'm getting from you.
You choose to get that impression from me. Not everyone is getting that impression from me. You do because you want to.
So
that's a choice you're
on
making.
your part.
You're making an assumption that will defend your position. It's an indefensible position.
You're not the person that says because white people like chocolate and chocolate milk, they want to be black, are you?
I think you said that. You didn't hear that from me. Did you hear me say that?
No, I mean, at some other time, at another program.
Do you really think I would say that?
I don't know.
You see, what we're dealing here with is mental illness. Racism is mental illness.
Hey, and that's facts, man. Now, this coming from an Edomite.
Racism was defined by the President's Joint Council on Mental Health in Children in 1959 as being the number one mental health problem among children in the United States. And they didn't say among black children, they said among children. If you judge other people by the color of their skin, by the amount of a chemical in their skin, you have a mental problem. You are not dealing well with reality.
This is what I found every month when we do a show about this, that the majority of people who are not of color, white people, always say, but I don't think I'm prejudiced. Even just Gloria said it earlier, but I don't think I'm prejudiced. When we come back, I think what needs to be explained is, okay, everybody is prejudiced. Everybody is prejudiced. And I think the reason why people say, white people in particular say, I'm not prejudiced, is because they're afraid somehow then they're going to be judged because they are prejudiced. I think that if at least the country could just tell the truth about ourselves. If you could just say, yes, if you have to recognize that you are prejudiced before you can begin to change it. When we come back, we're going to tell you why you are prejudiced and how to stop teaching it to your children.
So, this is Jane, man. Jane Elliott, man. And she got a lot of...
I think you need to explain something
lot of
that
interviews, man.
Maybe got not heard as well as it should have, Jane. Jane said just a few minutes ago that if you were raised white in America and you are not prejudiced, then you would be a miracle. It would be a miracle to not be prejudiced. And explain what you meant by that.
It would mean that the school system had failed, because the school system in this country is about maintaining the status quo. And in this country, it is white supremacy. That is one of the things we teach in the schools. And we teach it in lots and lots of ways. How many of you have ever had a teacher say to you, when I see people, I don't see people as black or brown or red or yellow. I just see people as people. How many of you have ever heard that statement? How many of you have ever
Gloria just said it earlier today. Gloria just said, I don't see color.
I don't see color. Isn't that wonderful? How many of you have ever heard a teacher say this? I don't care if you're black or brown or green with purple stripes. I'm going to treat you all the same. Ever heard that one? Now, how many of you have ever seen earthlings that were green with purple stripes? You see, that's a very serious statement to make, because you are lumping all people of color with aliens. And it's what we do in this country. We consider those who are people of color not really citizens of this country. How many of you have heard this one? I think we should just ignore differences and talk about how we're all alike inside. Okay? Now, I want you to see something. You stand up here, please. Just stand right there. Put your black shoe right beside my black shoe. Now, do people see any differences between us? What's the first one you notice? Height. Is your height important to you?
Yes.
Well, yeah. Would you rather be your height or mine?
No.
Absolutely. Everybody would. You see any other differences here? Color. Sex. Is sex important to you? Well, let me put that on. Is the fact that you're male important to you?
Yes.
Yes. Are we alike on the inside?
Yeah.
Oh, we are? Can you get cancer of the cervix? Can I get prostate cancer? No. Does that make a difference in the way we're treated? Absolutely, it makes a big difference in the way we're treated. Sex is an important difference. Height is an important difference. You see any other difference here? Age. Would you rather be your age or mine?
Mine.
You want to get to be my age? Now, that's the ignorance of youth talking, people. He has a lot of things to worry about that I don't have to worry about anymore. Age is an important difference. They're trying to pass legislation in the Congress of this country to allow us to withhold medical attention from those over 75 because they are no longer productive members of society. How many of you have a parent or a grandparent who is over 75? How many of you would want medical attention withheld from that person on the basis of their birth date? Now, people, you need to be aware that if they can do it to people of color today, they can do it to the aged tomorrow. And all of you will have to worry about that someday if you're very fortunate. See any other differences here? Glasses. You talked about height and age and gender. You see another difference here that's important? Color. Yeah, see, nobody wants to say the C word. It used to be the C word was condom. You couldn't say that one. Now you have to say it because it will keep you alive. But now no one wants to say the C word is color. Because we have a president who says, I think what we need is a colorblind society. Now, folks, when you hear somebody say that, you know you're listening to a racist. Because what he is saying is there's something wrong with this person's color. So we just will pretend he isn't this color. Has anyone ever said to you, when I see you, I don't see you as black? Yeah. How many of you people of color have had that experience?
Well, you know what happened? Can I share this with you all, Jane and you all? I have a neighbor of mine who's a farmer, and I have some sheep, and I have a lot of black sheep. And sometimes when you have the black sheep turn white. I don't know how the hell they do that, but anyway, so my neighbor who's a farmer said to me not too long ago, he says, I don't understand, all your black sheep stayed black. And I said, yeah, I guess because they knew they were a black family. And he said, and my farmer neighbor, who happens to be a white man, said to me, oh, you're not black, you're just a neighbor. I go, I most certainly am black. But that was his way of saying, you're not like what I think other black people are. So I understood that's what he was saying, but that's what you're saying.
Is your color important to you?
Yes.
Absolutely. White folks, listen to that. Color is important to people of color. But it's also important to white people. It has been negatively important in this country for 500 years. When you start seeing it as a positive, then white people will begin to say, well, now let's not deal with it that way, because then that will mean there's something wrong with us because we are colorless. Color is an important difference, folks. We are not the same on the inside, not only because we're different male and female. Black psychology isn't the same as white psychology. It doesn't mean it's better or worse, it's just different. Differences need not be seen as negative. They are positive, they are valuable. Folks, forget the melting pot theory. It would never work, it shouldn't have to work. It ought to be all right to be different. It ought to be all right for us to be male, female, tall, short, fat, thin, old, young, black, white, brown, yellow, whatever. The differences are important. Think of this country as a salad bowl. How many of you make salad by throwing the green peppers, the red peppers, the tomatoes, the lettuce, the celery, the onions into a blender, blending them up, pouring them in glasses, and passing them around with various kinds of dressing? You want all the components in that salad to maintain their flavor, their shape, their size, their texture, their color, because it makes for a more interesting whole. This audience is a very interesting group because of the differences. It really bothers me when I talk to all-white groups, because, folks, there's no such thing as an all-white group. You all have the same great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparent back there 280,000 years ago, and she was a black female.
Oh, that's heavy.
In that society, I was taught how to be a racist at birth. I know how to be a racist. I hate it. I hate the fact that when I read an article in the paper about a crime, I immediately think, God, please don't let it have been a black person who did it. Because immediately I will get a call from somebody saying, well, one of your people did it again. I'm a racist. I was infected with racism at birth. I want to get over it. It is going to take me the rest of my life to get over it, but I can do it. But I have to choose to do it. I choose to do it. Now, colored Band-Aid. Now, put your hand out here, please. On which of our hands would that flesh-colored Band-Aid be insignificant? It would be more noticeable on his. Why?
Because it's not flesh-colored.
Because this, according to the manufacturers of flesh-colored Band-Aids, is not the proper color for flesh. And when you say to a person of color, when I see you, I don't see you as black, what you're saying is, there's something, you have this deformity. And I'm going to pretend that you don't have that deformity. And then we will be able to relate to one another if we pretend that you aren't black. If I have to pretend he isn't black, what does he have to do? Pretend he isn't black. So then we have to agree to be insane together for a while.
Hey, man. As she said, it don't matter how white you is, how yellow you is. I read, hey, y'all, all Edomites go back to Rebecca and Isaac, man. Okay? But that separation. And this chick, Jane Elliott, go in on that, man. She do a lot of different studies on this, man. This is Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 8. Their visage, meaning your face, your appearance, their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. We are not known in the streets, man. Okay? Always was said that we are the minority and so-called white man is the majority. No, man. We are the majority. You so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians are the majority, man. Okay? Hey, so Lord's willingness was edifying. We gotta give our praise to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone, who well, who teach well, and a sincere salutation to all the ark and preaching this truth of the full winds of the earth, waking up the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Yahawah who are listening and learning. Hey, this is the Edomites became the white race in 1681. Shalom.